Convocourses podcast. We're going to be talking about resumes. We're going to be talking about false positives versus false negatives. Somebody asked me a question about whether I'm going to be doing a security control assessment course. I'll talk about that. And then the CAP course that's coming up. I'll talk about that as well. And then I'll open it up to questions. As always, you can ask me questions live and I'll address them here. Let's start off with this resume. Now, what I'm looking at right here is a resume someone sent me. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. This is from quote unquote Fred Costa, who is a MBA and he is a senior program and IT manager. And I told him that I would take a look at his resume. It looks like a very solid resume, by the way. Really, really good work here. It's really filling out a lot of information. This person has a lot of experience stretching over many, many years and pretty versatile and stuff. And he just wanted me to look at the resume. So that's what I'm going to do. So as much as possible, I'll read this because I know some people listen to this on podcasts. So I'll explain as much as I can. So as I said, it's a senior program and IT project manager. And I'm just going to try to streamline this as best I can. But really, this is such a great resume. I don't know how much I can really add to it. It's very robust. He's got lots of keywords. I'm looking through it, and I'm it's really good. So it's got a lot of stuff in it. So I don't really know how much I can improve on this, but I'll give it a shot. Maybe I can add some tips here and there on this one. All right. So the first line starts off with executive summary, where he breaks down a whole page worth of highlights in the resume. What I would do with this is I would get this way down to like few paragraphs. This first executive summary goes on for pages, one whole page. And I think that kind of defeats the purpose of an executive summary. Because an executive summary, you kind of want to the idea behind an executive summary, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but is that whoever's going to read this is an executive and they need to get the facts quickly and they need to move on. And in a resume with an executive summary or overview or whatever you want to call it in the beginning of it, you want to just hit all the most important things as an overview in just a couple sentences that like very high impact that sum up the whole resume quickly. But he's kind of made a mini resume in the beginning. So I would definitely cut this down. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut some of this down. I'm just going to briefly skim through this. He says the first part of the executive summary says, senior program and IT manager with deep experience in leading and training organization ranging from 1,100 to 1,500 personnel, including strategic planning operations. And I would actually leave it at that. And then it goes on to, I'm just going to go ahead and, all right, this first part's good. I think that has an impact, has numbers. That's great. The next section has advanced skills in project management, cyber portfolio management, building, training plans, collecting data, and cross-department agency collaborations, expertise in multinational cyber weapons within high-profile environments, for example, working with commercial liaisons. And then he just goes into this mini resume. So what I would do is I would cherry pick some of the good stuff. Like right here, he's got a clearance. I would put that right on top. I'm going to get rid of all this other stuff here below. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's got like 10 paragraphs underneath this, and this is all in the executive summary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cherry pick a couple things. I'm going to put them in the top. And he's got managed. He's got TSSCI. That's something you want to put on top. He's got. What we'll do is we'll bulletize it. We'll bulletize it, and then TSSCI. We're going to bulletize that. We're going to take managed major 4-year $500 million IT weapon system program. Okay, I'm going to take that first part. It just goes on and on about all this other stuff, which sounds great, but it's just, we want it to be a summary, so we're gonna do the best we can with that. Then the next paragraph says, serves as project manager with responsibility of overall management. Okay, this one's kind of mediocre. And the next one is assign programs with which includes physical, electronic, cybersecurity systems. Okay, I'll put this in here because this cybersecurity is a good, nice, solid keyword. We're gonna make that, bulletize that one. And then I think that's it. Now he's got more stuff here, and he could totally go through and get more stuff in here, but I think we got the gist of the main things here. So I'm gonna delete all these other paragraphs here. Now he's got another copy, so I can mess around with this one and just to kind of give an idea of what I would do on this resume. And this is by no stretch of the imagination the end all be all ideas, you know what I mean? This is just what I would do. This is, and what I would do, it might not be the right answer, but I'm just telling you what has been successful for me. And yeah, okay, we're just gonna go ahead and remove this one. He's got some other good stuff in here too, but for the purposes of getting straight to the point, I'm gonna go ahead and bulletize these items. So now what we have is, it starts off with executive summary. This is solid to put inside of LinkedIn. So this right here, this first executive summary, LinkedIn has this section. Let me see if I can go to LinkedIn real quick, so I can show you what I'm talking about. LinkedIn is one of the best, in my opinion, places to market your resume. I got a whole course about how to market your resume and walks you through marketing your resume on LinkedIn, where I break down exactly how I've been able to get all these super great job offers on LinkedIn nonstop with really under 500 contacts. Now I now have over 500 contacts, apparently. Just found that out just looking in this thing. But what I'm doing right now is I want to show you exactly what I have in my profile. This first part, here's my profile right here. I'm looking at my profile. I'm in LinkedIn, and I just want to show you that there's a place where you can put the executive summary, and here it is. Executive summary would go right in this about section here, but this has a limited amount of characters in it. See how this is pretty long, and it summarizes things, and it gets straight to the point of what I want to do here. Exactly what I want. Everything I want and all the most impactful things are right here in the summary, and that's what you want to do for your executive summary in the about portion here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get out of this. I don't want to discard changes right there. And so yeah, that's what you want to do with your resume. This first part, executive summary, would go in the about section of your LinkedIn page. And now dice.com and Career Builder and all the others, Career J, all those other ones have a section where you can put an about section there. Some of them don't, but that's where you would put that in there. And you want to be very hard hitting so that somebody think to yourself like this: a person has about a few minutes to look at your resume. What do you want them to see first, and what do they want them to get through? And these are people who are going through hundreds or maybe even thousands of resumes. You want to have as great as impact as possible. You want to get straight to the point. You do not want to have a mini resume inside your executive summary. And so that's what I try to do here. So that's what I would recommend. Now let's kind of get into the meat of this resume here. Now that the executive summary or about section is out of the way, we're going to move on to the actual jobs. Now, he's got Imagine Technologies Management and current place of work. That's good. And he's got tons of keywords. This is just really good. This is just a really good resume. Like I'm just trying to at a loss of where I could actually improve upon this. This is really good. He's got, okay, I'm just going to read one. It's going to read one to give you an example of how good this resume is. Provide full life cycle support for the development, deliveries, and sustainment of the assessment and authorization ANA Navy Risk Management Framework life cycle. This is awesome. This is lots of keywords. Only thing I would probably add here, full life cycle support. So here's a keyword we could put here. You could put SDLC. This means software development life cycle. So when he says provide full life cycle support, and then in parentheses we put software development life cycle for development, deliveries, and sustainment of the assessment and authorization ANA. And then it goes into all this great information. This is really, really good stuff. So I would not, that's the only thing I would add there. Then he goes on to say, experience with Department of Navy authorizing official requirements, Department of Navy risk management frameworks, specific template requirements, documentation, guidance, guidelines, and procedures. Experience with any of the following technologies, and then he lists a whole bunch of technologies. That's definitely how you do it. This is how you do it. This guy could do a master's class on a resume. This is good stuff. He's got tons and tons of keywords here. Goes into Sarbanes-Oxley. I would put SOX just in case somebody's looking for that keyword. I would add that there. And then goes into the next portion. Yeah, this is really good. Yeah. The only part that I would change is the first part. I would make the summary way smaller. And then let me see if there's anything at the end here that we could add that little trick that I like to put in here. Enrolled in CISSP course. Okay, look at that. So he doesn't have a CISSP, but he's saying I'm enrolled in it. Oh, I see he's got some certifications though. Okay, this is good. CISA Plus certified. All right, let's see if we got any really heavy hitting certs here. Cyber Threat Intelligence Certificate, VRAM Management Training, Civilians Cybersecurity Familiarity Course. Okay, there's nothing really big in here. So what I would do is once I got like a solid certification, like a Security Plus, I'm not sure how big a CISA Plus is, but you could probably put this in the beginning of your resume. The point is you want to put one of these certifications in the top so that they see it, because a lot of technical recruiters, they're looking for certifications. They're keyword heavy and they're looking for certifications. So what he could do is scrolled back up to the top of the resume and I copied one of his certifications, a CISA Plus, on the top right after his MBA, and put that right on top. That's it. That's what I would do. That's how I would do it. And then now the heavy lifting is going to be in taking all of this data, taking all your best stuff and putting it on LinkedIn, putting it on dice.com, putting it on let me put it to you this way. The more places you put this awesome resume that's keyword heavy, the more opportunities you will have to make more money. And that's it. That is it. All right, I'm going to move on to another subject. Got about 6 people watching. If you guys have any questions or anything you want me to cover while we're here, feel free to ask, type it in, and we will address it. So, can you guys hear me, by the way? Yes, okay. I can see it seems like my sound's coming through to audio. Sometimes I'll be talking, the audio won't be going through. All right, so I'm going to start off with a few questions that some folks have asked me. I'm just going to go right through these. Starting with false positives. Audio's good. Okay, thanks, Navi. Appreciate that. Resume looks good. Yeah, man, this is an awesome resume. Sometimes people will send me resumes and they're not that good, or I have a lot of, not that they're not good, it's just that I have a lot of inputs little tricks and stuff that I've used over the years that have helped me out. So it seems like he has a lot of those things in there, so that's good. There's only minor things, and I'll send those back his way. All right, let's get into this first question here. Somebody asked me, Mr. Dan asked me, that he actually made a statement that I may have made a mistake on my false positive versus false negatives. And he says, I really like your videos, and I just wanted to point out that the example that you used in implementation video number 2 about false positive, it is really a false negative. And what you're explaining, he says that I'm mixing those two things up. Okay, let's see. Maybe I made a mistake here. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see what I'm reading here. And okay, so it says that he goes on to explain where I made the mistake. So he says, what the true state is. So he's saying that a false positive is where you know what the true state is and that everything is working fine because you implemented a patch. So you have a system, let's take a real world example. We have Windows 2016. We just patched it. It has no problems. We know that the state is solid, right? No security issues. And he says, therefore, the outcome should be positive outcome after completing the scan. Like you ran a scan, and then you should see nothing wrong because it's solid. That's what he's saying. That he's saying that I'm thinking that that's what he means by a false positive. But let's keep reading here. However, the Nessus scan. Okay, so however, the Nessus scan indicates that there is an error. It's not patched. So we have a solid system, 2016 Windows system. We just patched it. It's solid. There's no errors. But we run a Nessus scan, and it's coming back and saying, hey, you have an error. The scan is falsely showing a negative or a wrong state. So therefore, it's a false negative. Okay, yeah, I disagree with this, and I'm going to explain why. So he's saying that it should be called a false negative because the Nessus scanner said that it gave us kind of a thumbs down. It says, hey, you have a negative thing here, and therefore it should be a false negative. And this is going to sound a little confusing, but once I explain it, it should make a lot more sense. And then he says, please let me know if I'm reading this wrong. Otherwise, great videos. Okay, Dan. So here's my understanding of it, and I'm gonna explain it in a way that I understand it, which is a very basic way. Think of it like, now after I got this message, I kind of read through because I was like, well, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read the definition, and then I'm gonna give you a specific example where there's no doubt in your mind that of what a false positive versus a false negative is. Okay. A false positive result is erroneously or wrongly labels a person infected. This also applies to computers, by the way. False positive erroneously or wrongly labels a person infected who is not infected. All right. Now, keep that one in your mind. It's a little misleading because it's saying it's positive, but you can't think of it in terms of good or bad necessarily. It's in terms of on and off. Okay, so let's keep going with the false negative. A false negative result are more consequential because an infected person or an infected system, person or system, doesn't matter, who might be asymptomatic may not isolate themselves because they don't know. It's saying that the results are saying that they don't have anything wrong. The results are saying they're good, but they're not good. Okay, so let me explain it. Here it is right here. Here's how I understand it. Think of it like this. And this is a perfect time to explain it like this. COVID-19. So let's say you go to take a test for COVID-19. And you can, during this entire explanation, you can switch this with a system. And in fact, let's just go with the person first, and then we'll talk about system. COVID-19. you go to get tested for COVID-19, right? You're coughing, you're sneezing, you're like, man, maybe I have it. You go get tested, and the test comes back and says you have COVID-19, right? But the thing is, you don't have COVID-19. That is a false positive. And let me explain why. So the test itself is saying that you're positive, but you're not positive. You don't have COVID-19. Now let's switch this around to a system. Let's say you have a system and the system is solid. Let's go back to our example of the Windows 16 system, that everything is good, everything is solid. And you run your Nessus scanner, or you run Qualys, or you run Rapid7, or you run whatever scanner you have, right? You run that and it says, hey, this has not been patched. But you know for sure you patched it. That's a false positive. So, in other words, the system is positively lighting up on a certain thing, a certain bit of code in the actual operating system. It's positively saying this person doesn't have this patch that he's supposed to have. So that is a false positive. And what you would do with that as a system security person, which you would have to prove that it is patched. What you could do is you could do screenshots, or you could do you could actually just show the assessor, hey, nope, look, see, we patched it last Thursday. Here it is right here. That's a false positive. And then you would have to, sometimes what organizations will do is they'll put together like a documentation that states with the evidence in there that, hey, this is a false positive and here's why. And then you explain why it's a false positive, right? Now let's go to false negative. A false negative, on the other hand, is, in a way, it's worse. And here's why. Let's go back to our human experiment, or a human example rather. And let's say you think you might have COVID-19. You're not coughing, you're not sneezing, but you think you might have it. So you go to get tested for COVID-19. And the test says, no, you're good. They put the swab up your nose and stuff. They test it. And they come back and say, nope, he's good. Right? Now, here's the twist. It turns out you do have COVID-19. But here's why it's worse. A false negative is worse because the test is wrong. Now you got to think about, if you thought you didn't have it, you're out spreading it to everyone because you're asymptomatic. It's not showing any symptoms, but you have it, and you're just going around like normal, infecting everybody, right? And not only that, but if if it was wrong with you, if the process of swabbing your nose and then whatever chemical test that they did to see if you have it or not is wrong with you, it's probably wrong with everyone. That maybe they tested 1,000 people that day. Now, those 1,000 people, let's say that 10% had COVID-19, and they're out spreading it to everybody because it says nobody is infected. That is a false negative. It's making a mistake by saying that you are negative when you are actually positive. I know it's confusing, but but that's how it works. So now here's another reason why it's worse. Let's go back to our system example. So let's say you are on a Windows 95 system. You're on a Windows 95 system for some reason. And you do your Nessus scan, you do your Qualys scan or whatever, right? And you scan it, and the scanner says, nope, he's good. There's no problems at all. Now, just consider that. Now, if you ever worked on a Windows 95 system or whatever, it should find all kinds of problems with it. All kinds of security issues. But it says falsely that you're good, even though you know it's bad. There's all kinds of problems. There's no patches on it. It's a Windows 90. It's obsolete. It's no longer supported. It's end of life. All kinds of stuff it should be lighting up on, right? And it says, nope, you're good. That is a false negative. And the reason why it's worse is because if it can't even detect this Windows 95 system, How can it detect if there's a Windows 2000 system or a Windows 2003 system or whatever? And then what if there's 100 other Windows 95 systems that is scanning and didn't pick up on any of those things? That's a problem. And now you have this system sitting on your network that has all kinds of holes on it that's vulnerable to all kinds of exploits. That's way worse than a false positive. So false positive, it would erroneously tell you that you're wrong, and then you would go back and check it. But a false negative gives you a false sense of security. So that's the difference between a false positive and a false negative. But if you guys have a way of explaining it, or you guys think I'm wrong, please feel free to chime in. That's the way I understand it. And that's, as a matter of fact, I just got through doing a false positive at my actual job. So anyway, that's that. So let's move on to the next thing. Somebody asked me, okay, here's another question that I got from Ayeesha, and she said, I came across your YouTube videos and I'm interested in taking the CAP exam. Okay, great. Okay, good. And it says, I have watched a few videos concerning risk management framework and I would like to learn more. I would like to know for someone who doesn't have the IT background, is it possible to find a job after having a CAP certification? And do you have any courses related to the CAP exam? Okay, let me answer this, Ayeesha, in a way, as frankly as I can. Is it likely for someone who does not have an IT background? So you don't have to have a huge amount of technical experience to do risk management framework. And the reason why I know this is because I know many IT security compliance people who are not very solid on technical as far as hands-on. They have a good working understanding of the technology. Maybe they have a bachelor's degree in computer science. Maybe they have a bachelor's degree, and somehow they got into computer compliance, security compliance, and they don't have a lot of technical experience. That said, they usually have some kind of IT experience, whether that's working in a shop where they just did inventory with IT, or they somehow got stuck writing policies, or being a technical writer for IT, or a program manager. They just did they had 6 years of program management where they worked very closely with information technology people, and so they know. And then they have maybe a couple certifications. They know basic networking. They understand TCP/IP. They understand the OSI model. They have a solid understanding, even though they're not super technical, meaning they're not everyday troubleshooting servers or troubleshooting networks and stuff like that. So you do have to have some sort of IT background to do risk management framework. Even if you get the CAP, to get the job, somebody's gonna expect you to have some kind of IT background. And please, this is a conversation. So if anyone has any information, use your experience, tell me what you guys have seen in this field. In my experience, what I have seen is that normally folks do have some sort of background. I recall in my last job, one of my coworkers was pretty illiterate. Not illiterate, but wasn't very technical. And you could tell because sometimes he would say things that didn't make sense, and then we had to explain it to him in different ways, and he didn't understand what the security engineers were saying. And there was a couple guys on our team that were like that, and they didn't have a lot of technical background. One guy had done it many, many, many years ago. He was an older guy. He really didn't his technical skills were way, way, way back, in the 90s. And another guy, his were very thin, very thin. He had a master's degree and not a lot of hands-on. But both of those guys had a lot of experience doing risk management framework. One guy he was an SCA. He was a security control assessor, and he'd done that for 2 years at his last job. But when he was doing that, he wasn't doing scans. He wasn't doing hands-on. He was just looking at people's policies. He was a policy guy. He would just look at their policy. Okay, do you have this policy? Do you have this in your policy? Are you addressing the roles? Are you addressing the purpose? He knew the policies pretty good. And he had a really good understanding how to write the documents. He was like a technical writer. So those are the two guys, and they didn't have a lot of hands-on. So to answer your question, you do need to have some sort of IT background. You don't have to be super technical. So I hope that answers your questions. Now, to get the certification, the CAP certification, ISC 2 actually allows you to have less than 2 years of experience. If you go to ISC 2's website, they have this breakdown of all of the requirements that you have to have, right? One of them is you have to have 2 years of IT experience in one of the 7 domains that they have for the CAP. But they said if you can pass the test and then get the experience within 3 years, you need to get 2 years of experience within 3 years, then you officially have the CAP certification. So there's like a way around the 2-year requirement. So, and then let me see if I answer your second question. Is it possible to find a job after having the CAP certification? I would again say while it's possible, it's going to be improbable if you don't have the experience. Now, one thing you could have, if you're in, there's a couple hotspots that if you're there, you have a higher probability of getting a job. If you're in Virginia, Virginia has tons and tons of jobs for risk management framework and security compliance. Virginia, that whole area, Washington, D.C., that whole East Coast area has so many jobs. If you can at least get a security background check, if you can at least get an SSBI, if you can get a security clearance, some companies will allow you. They'll train you on. They will give you on the job training stuff and build you up. I've heard of that happening. I mean, I think that's what happened to the guy who I said was doing all of the documents. He didn't have a lot of technical skills, but he knew documentation really well. And so that guy right there, his experience allowed him to level up because he had done the SCA job for 2 years. And in that other job, though, he was like a contractor. He was like jumping from contracting job to contracting job and kept on getting these like 6-month to hire jobs, and then they would let him go and he would go to this other job. And he was just doing purely documentation stuff. So he had a clearance, and that's how he was able to get those jobs. So it's possible. It's not probable. You need the IT experience in some way, shape, or form. You have to get it. So, and the way you get that is to start at an entry-level job and work your way up. So that's what I would say about that. And she asked, he said, do you have any courses related to CAP exams? So I am working on one right now that specifically addresses all the objectives, the 7 domains and all the objectives in the CAP course. It's been taking me a long time. I've been talking about it since last year. I work on it when I can, but for now I have 2 courses that kind of dabble in the CAP course. One is called Risk RMF ISO Foundations. That's probably the best one. And then I have another one that focuses on documentation. If you were to take that whole course, it does talk a lot about stuff that's in the CAP, but it doesn't break down the objectives. So it tells you how to do the job, not necessarily how to pass the test. So I hope that answers your question. And let me see if there's some insight into this one. Junior Kiss Day says, you can get the job if you're able to nail the interview. You don't have to really have experience, but you have to have good critical thinking skills. So you can get the job if you nail the interview. You don't really have to have experience. You need to have good critical thinking skills. And I would agree with that in that, like I said, I've known people who didn't have a lot of technical skills. but normally they started from the bottom still. They typically had some sort of IT job, even if it wasn't super technical, or if it was like many years ago, or they had something, some kind of feather in their cap. But yeah, if you can nail the interview, if you can get in there, if you are eligible, and they need a person to do, really need a person that has an SSBI, or they really need a person that has a TSEI. They can look past a lot of things. You know, if you have the bachelor's degree they want, you have the you are eligible, or you have a security clearance, you are living in the area and you live like around the corner from the job, you nail the interview, you got all those things going for you, and you're willing to learn, you can get the job. It is possible, but if you have zero experience, it's gonna be less probable, I should say. So, all right, let me see. What's my next question here? And I hope that answers that one. All right, this is okay. All right, hold on a second. I'm getting kind of. Where's my other slide at? There we go. Okay, SCA. I get this question a lot. SCA course. Good morning, Bruce. I hope this finds you well. And my name is Jonathan, and I have been watching your videos on YouTube, and I'm really interested in your courses. You do an excellent job of explaining concepts in great detail in a manner that I can understand. I truly admire your work. Thanks, man. I appreciate all that. Thanks for your kind words. Appreciate that. I'm currently in the IT field, and I'm aiming to become a security control assessor. There it is. Which of your classes do you recommend I sign up for to teach me the knowledge towards becoming an SCA? Do any of your courses go over exactly how to implement security controls step by step? I'm familiar with the risk management framework process, but I do not have a hands-on experience with vulnerability scanning, such as EMAS. Is that a scanner? And reports such as POAMs, SARS, and SAP, SSP, etc. Okay. So let me answer all parts of this question. So first off, the courses that I have do cover, oh crap, I just went back again. The courses I do have breaks down exactly how to write a POAM, plan of action and milestone, a security system security plan. I'm going to break down the SAR at some point, the SAP at some point, but it's a very solid understanding and breakdown of many of these documents. And I also explain the difference where you would use an EMAS system. I don't do any hands-on stuff on vulnerability scans. People have asked me to do that. I can do it, but I don't have anything right now for that. Do my courses touch on step-by-step how to implement security controls? I've been thinking about doing one of those, like how to put security controls on a basic Windows system. Yeah, I've been thinking about doing it. I don't have it yet, but I've seriously been considering that. If I get enough interest in it, I might do it. And which one of your classes do you recommend you take that will help you with the SCA? I don't have any SCA ones yet. I touch on it here and there, but I don't have one yet. I'm thinking about like releasing a free course on it to talk about the basics and then sum up some of the stuff I've already done to see if I can generate some kind of see if people want it. I don't want to make courses that people don't want. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste other people's time. So I want to do stuff people actually are looking for. And SCA, I keep getting that question, so maybe I'll do one on that. So I hope that answers your question. Kind of just skimming through it again about this. Yeah, so I don't have anything on SCA. I don't have any step-by-step implementation of security controls. That one I could totally nail that one. I've done that many times before. But I keep getting people asking me about SCA. And that's what I do right now. I do assessments. So I could totally teach it. I do this. So that's what I've kind of moved. I've moved away from doing the actual writing of the documents, and now I still write, but it's more from an assessor point of view. Like I'll take the vulnerabilities and then I'll I'll break those down into how to fix things, stuff like that. All right, let's move on to the next one. This one's one I've already answered. This one I got on Discord. If you guys didn't know, I'm on Discord. You can send me questions at any time of the day, and I see those pop up in my Discord channel. Let me see if anybody's on Discord, as a matter of fact. A couple people have been added to Discord, but if you have any questions, you just go here to Ask Bruce, or you can start a new conversation. And I also have one on jobs. So yeah, just go to Discord, check it out. I'm gonna start populating this, see if we can get this going. But there it is right there. But anyway, they asked me, they said, hey bro, 2 questions. That I am trying to enter the cyber field by applying for IT support roles. What is the best programming languages to know as a cybersecurity, and what is the best way to study the Security Plus exam, as I'm going to take it whenever I feel ready? Okay. In my opinion, from what let me just tell you what I've seen. So, like I said, cybersecurity is a very broad field. Like, it's not all technical, believe it or not. Like, a lot of the stuff I've done hasn't been super duper technical. Let me qualify that. What I mean to say is, you have to understand IT. Like, you have to understand networking to some degree. Like, you have to understand what an IP address is, what an internal IP address is versus an external IP. You need to know the difference between a server and a desktop, the different, you have to know basic things. You do have to know. But what I mean by when I say you don't have to be technical, what I mean to say is you don't have to be super duper deep in, say, programming or databases, or there's so many different aspects of cybersecurity. And I'll just name a few. One could be forensics, where you have to be super deep in scripting languages. You may have to be very deep in hashes. You probably need to know a little bit about a lot about how to look into a packet and how to crack open a hard drive and get the data off of something somebody threw in the trash bin, and how to extract it using tools. That's a very specific kind of skill set that a network engineer, a security network engineer, probably won't know. He'll know about packets, how to route packets here and there, how to encrypt packets, but he probably is not going to know how to use FTK or something, which is a forensics tool. And then you got pen testers. Pen testers are basically hackers. They're people who know how to vulnerabilities of a network, how to get in, different vulnerabilities that you can use to exploit to get inside of a network, and how to cover your tracks. So there's so many different aspects. And then what I have done for the last 18, 19 odd years has been mostly documentation and mostly security compliance, which is, I haven't had to know any programming languages. I mean, I know some, but I did that on my own time. I didn't have to know them for the sake of my job, and I got up to 6 figures. So you don't have to know programming language. That said, the most effective ones, in my experience, as I've transitioned from a compliance guy to a Unix guy to a SIEM guy to a computer security analyst guy to a cybersecurity analyst guy, I've done those jobs. And there's a couple of programs that I've noticed have been very useful. And let me show you what I had a list of these right here. Ask Bruce, here it is. And I can't make this any bigger. But what I answered to Marcelo was that I have found the scripting languages to be very helpful. Because in all those jobs, it's come in handy. Bash, PowerShell, Python, Perl, and PHP. Those scripting languages there's been times when if I'd known it, or sometimes I have to learn a little bit of the code in order to do a certain thing, So scripting languages, I would say, for a security person is like it's like having a Swiss Army knife where you can, it's got a bottle opener and it's got a knife and it's got a can opener and all that kind of stuff. It's like having a Swiss Army knife. It's very, very useful. And anytime I've had to do any of these things, I've had to use PHP before. I've had to use Python. I've had to use Perl, a little bit of PowerShell, and Bash. I've had to use all these things, like little bits and pieces of these codes for my entire career. So those right there are very useful. And then I kind of went online, did some more research, and found on Hacker Noon, good site for security stuff, 5 best programming languages, and they said C+. I mean, I learned that in school, but I've never had to use it. I had to write a program a couple times. I've used it, a little bit of it before, but not really in my career, to be honest with you. Python I've used here and there for sure. JavaScript, kind of sometimes, but mostly on my own personal stuff. PHP, yes. SQL, oh yes, that's one I forgot to mention. SQL is definitely good for a security person to know. So, those last 2, I would say I would agree with them on those. Let's see. Somebody mentioned something here. What do you guys think about that? Marcus Monroe says, how many years of experience do I need to get into compliance or audit? Security compliance. So anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And let me show you let me validate what I'm saying here. If we go to Indeed.com, let me show you what I mean by that. If we type in security compliance, and feel free to follow along with me here. Compliance. Watch this. So it's looking in Colorado Springs. Let's not look in Colorado Springs. Let's look in all of the United States, USA, and let's see what people are looking for here. And typically these guys will tell you how many years of experience that they need. So this first one, for example, this is not what we want. This is like a TSA person that checks people inside. Yeah, it's just, all right, this is physical security. No, this is not what we want. We want information security compliance. Information security and compliance specialist. Okay, here we go. It's a remote job in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Let's see how many years of experience that they want. 2 years of experience in a similar role. There's 2 years of experience, but that's in that role. Let's look at this next one here. Bachelor's degree and 1 year experience in a business or education customer driven environment. So this is 1 year experience with a bachelor's degree. Really depends on the job. Let's see. Here's another one here. Let's just go straight to experience. Minimum 2 to 3 years experience as a control test gen. I don't know what that means, unless they might fat finger that. I'm not sure, unless that's the actual thing. Security risk management, remediation. Oh, so 2 to 3 years in one of these things, I think. Remediation and control, so 2 to 3 years. Okay, so you can see the average time frame that they're looking for is at least 2 years, and typically with a bachelor's degree, by the way. And if you have like a higher level degree, sometimes they'll be like, okay, we'll take 1 year of experience. Sometimes your education can offset how many years that they'll take. So yeah, if you follow along with me, this what all I did was I went to Indeed.com. You can do this also with any other search engine aggregate out there, and I just typed in what job you want, whatever job. Another thing that you probably want to do is type in things like, because there's different names for what we do: risk management, if I could spell risk management framework. And this is also compliance, by the way. It's another word. Risk management framework is a keyword you can use. Information security compliance, PCI compliance. There's different kinds of compliance. Sarbanes-Oxley compliance, SOX, SOX compliance. There's lots of different words. And to get more of these keywords, you have all you got to do is start with one, and then all these other keywords come up. If, as a matter of fact, sometimes when you're on the search engines, if you just type in information, see how these keywords are popping up? It's telling you what kinds of things to look for. Information security compliance. So there's information security system. How about this? System security officer. This is another keyword that you would look for compliance type jobs. An ISO, or information system security officer. I did this for many, many years, and they do a lot of compliance type stuff. That's another keyword you can use. But let's look at this first one right here. Let's look at a couple more of these and we'll move on. What kind of experience are they looking for?
Something went wrong. Try again in a few seconds.
That's that's my Google voice thing there. Anyway, so let's see. I'm looking for more experience here. They're not listing experience, which is, unless I'm missing it. Qualifications, unless bachelor's degree. Yeah, they're not listing experience for some reason, which could be good. You would want to call them and say, like, how many years of experience are you guys looking for? Let's go to the next one. Whoops, that's my bad. Kansas City Bank. Wow. Experience, job experience. Let me see. I'm looking for kind of getting an average of how many years you go. 3 years of experience in risk management, auditing. That's security compliance. Now, auditing is a whole different thing. That's a whole different job. Like I said before, security is a very broad field. You mentioned security compliance, and then you mentioned auditing. Auditing is different. Auditing is like an SCA, it's like a security control assessor, a security auditor, information security auditor, information auditor. That's a whole different ball game. But this is like 5 years. Okay, so to answer your question, depends on the job. Depends on the job. It depends on what they're looking for. But Junior Kiss Dates added some information. He says compliance is 2 to 3 years minimum. Yes, I would. So you can see the average was between 2 and 3 years, but it really depends on what they're looking for and what level they're looking for, because you got entry level positions. But even for entry level positions, it's 2 to 3 years. You can get down to one. We saw a couple that were 1 year, but they usually want have a bachelor's degree and have a 1 year experience in a specific thing. But average 2 years experience. That's what they're looking for typically in security. But you can say help desk and then emphasize all your security stuff on help desk. If you've done help desk before, you've done security before. And that's one of the things I talk about in one of my courses, about how to take the experience you have and translate that and extract all the security stuff that you've done and highlight it in your resume. So yeah, 2 to 3 years minimum. That's a pretty good average, I would say. And it does depend on the job. SS says, how many years did it take to get 6 figures? That is a good question. So let me see. It's different now. SS. I'll tell you how long I took, but you got to remember, I started in the 90s, and the US dollar is different now. So 6 figures isn't what it used to be. It used to be a lot. I mean, it's still a decent amount. Don't get me wrong, but it used to be a lot. Now it's kind of like, if you go to certain places, it's average. To be honest with you. How long did it take me? Let me see. I start off in the military. Let's start in 2000. So in year 2000, I went into IT, and I went into IT. I was in the Air Force, And then I hit it around. Wow, what a story that is. Boy, I could tell you guys some stories about that. I hit it around 2010. It took me about 10 years. Yeah, around 2010, 2011 was when I hit six figures for the first time. And the way I did it is crazy. So, and when I did it, I was like, wow, that's crazy. I couldn't even believe it. So let me just, for you guys watching, you guys are going to get a special treat. And I hope that one of you guys listening really hears what I'm saying and maybe even does it. So what I did, I got out of the military, and once I got out, I realized how hard it was on the outside, because the military takes care of everything. The military you have housing, your utilities you only have utilities if you have cable if you live on base. You get free gym. There's a gym on base. The groceries are cheaper. When I got out of the military, it was a shock, because I'm working in the corporate world, and yeah, they pay you more, but you don't get free housing, you don't get free utilities, you don't get free, you got to pay for all that stuff. So really, it's even though I was making 45, it felt like it was hard. I'm like, damn, this is like really, really hard. I got a mortgage now. I'm like, how am I gonna make this work? I had a kid. My wife was spending all my money. My ex-wife was spending all my money. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, so I'm like, man, what am I going to do? I have to get another job. And then I was about to start delivering pizzas, because I just wasn't making ends meet. I just couldn't figure out. There was so much more debt. And I got stuck in this debt trap. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? So what I did was, now check this out. I started a blog. And on the blog, I started talking about security stuff, because that's what I knew. And I was fascinated with security, so I would just talk about it. And I had this thing where what I would do was, I was like the resident geek. So whenever somebody's computer got a virus, they would ask me to fix it. And then I figured I had the skill set. I started putting that online, start writing about viruses, and then how I got rid of it. And then people start coming to this website I created. And it got popular. Then I started talking about risk management framework, which was at the time was called DITSCAP, DIACAP. Nobody was talking about it, because the reason I started talking about it was because I would have these questions, and I'd go online like, man, how do I do this? And I have to go and read the regulations and read the laws and stuff, and it's so dry and boring. I would read it, understand it, and then I would condense it and put it straight to the point. Like, here's what you do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then people, it got pretty popular. Some corporation saw this document I wrote. This is the power of the internet. This is what you can do. I wrote these things about how to do this in a very straightforward way. A corporation saw it, and then they offered to pay me to write them like a book, like a little, not a book, like a workbook that explain how to do risk management framework, at the time called certification and accreditation. It's evolved 3 times over since then. But it explained how to do this stuff, right? They offered me like $3,000 or something. I was like, oh, $3,000 to write some stuff that I already wrote in my site, compiled it into a book, spell checked it, added some more data in there, made $3,000. Then they said, this is nice. I like this. Would you like to teach this? And I said, yeah, like, what do you mean? They're like, would you like to teach it? Would you like to work for us, fly to these places, and teach what you just wrote? I said, yeah, sure. Like, where do I go? Hawaii, Germany, Japan. It was a pretty cool job. So they asked me how much I wanted, and I said a crazy amount. And then they paid me that crazy amount. And that's how I did it. So long story short, and what you can take from this is, if you have any skill set in IT whatsoever, if you're learning IT, if you're obsessed with it and doing this, now it's all about videos. Make a video channel, make a YouTube channel, start talking about it, put the information out for free. Just give people information, make a platform to talk to people and just talk about your experiences, talk about what you're learning. The thing is, what you don't understand is that there's some things that are in your head right now that other people don't understand and don't know. You don't see it because for you it's so normal, but you have a certain level skill set that other people don't have. You put that out there, someone is going to see that, and they're going to be blown away by your skills, and they're going to follow you, and they're going to learn from you, and you're sharing what you have. A lot of people don't share this information that they have because, number one, they don't think that they have any. They think that it's not special to them. So why would you put out something that's not special? You'll know if it's special because a lot of people will ask you about it, and you're the resident expert on that thing. It doesn't have to be IT. It could be carpentry. It can be roofing. It could be whatever. But I guarantee you right now, you have some skill set that a lot of people don't know it. They come to you for advice. That's the stuff you could put on a website or on Instagram or on TikTok or on wherever. You post that information, and then after a while, it becomes valuable. And that is how I started making $6 grand. $6 figures, $6 grand, $6 figures. That's how I did it. And it's crazy how it started, but that's how I got my first 6-figure job. And then after that, I couldn't go under 6 figures. So yeah, after that, I took a job overseas making 6 figures. I came back. I was worth 6 figures again. Somebody else offered me a 6-figure job, and then I went to another job, 6 figures, and now I'm working from home, 6 figures. So you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And you just take your skills, you put them out there. It's if you're not used to doing this kind of stuff, I'll be honest, like doing these lives I'm always nervous. I don't know why. I must have done like 100 of these, probably 1,000. I've probably done 1,000 of these, and I still get nervous. I'm not an extrovert. I'm not doing this kind of stuff. Isn't I know how to teach, but I'm not trying to be famous or anything. You know what I mean? It's not my thing. But I like to give out information. I like to help people, and so that's what keeps me going. That's what kept me going in the beginning when I was not making anything. Now this channel and some other channels I do makes money. If you want a really good breakdown of how to do this stuff, watch this guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. So one of the things that inspired me to do a blog was his book. He had this book called Crushing It. I read that book, and basically what he talked about is what I'm telling you. You take a skill set that you know, you talk about it on these social media platforms. Thing is, social media is very powerful. It's powerful in that it kind of programs us. You wake up in the morning, what do? Look in your phone. But the power goes the other way too. It gives you power. If you start posting information that you know that's helping people, and that's the key, helping people. If you're helping people, the value is just increases when you help people. The more people you help, the more the value of your content. So you got to focus on not, I'm going to make money, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be, Casey Neistat, no. It's all about helping people. So focus on helping others, and then what happens is you get successful from helping other people. And that's kind of what he talks about. He talks about giving value to people. And that's, once I read that book, it was a life changer. That book was one of the reasons it inspired me to start going on blogs. Blogs are kind of dead now, but you evolve with the internet. So start doing videos. Now I'm doing podcasts. Now, so this is something to keep in the back of your mind. that's how I started doing six figures. I know that's kind of way off the beaten path, but yeah, that's how I started. Took about 10 years to get there. It won't take you 10 years to get there. If you really focus, it should not take 10 years. But I think that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody. If there's any other questions, remember, you can catch me on email. You can catch me on Discord. I don't know how long I'm going to keep this thing up, but let's try it. Here I am on Discord. Message me anytime. And if you have any questions, stuff you want me to bring up, stuff you want me to teach, stuff you feel like would be valuable to the channel to help people out, let me know and we'll do it. So that's all I got, guys. Thanks for the conversation. Appreciate everybody. And